Okay, we're back with part two of our discussion of Robert Frost's narrative poem, The Death of the Hired Man. And Mary is in the middle of softening Warren up and preparing Warren to reunite with Silas. And she's talking about things Silas has said to her since he has returned in his very, very diminished, again, maybe post-stroke state, maybe. Those days trouble Silas. Remember, they're talking about Harold Wilson when Silas worked along the teenager Harold Wilson, and right before Harold went off to college. Well, those days trouble Silas like a dream. You wouldn't think they would. How some things linger. Harold's young college boy's assurance piqued him. Piqued means resent, annoy. Piqued him. After so many years, he still keeps finding good arguments he sees he might have used. So, you know, this is a classic sort of working class guy and the sort of smarty pants kid, and you know, arguing, I'm sure, in good nature. And then, you know, years later, Silas remembers good comebacks, right? Good arguments he sees he might have used. I sympathize. I know just how it feels. I sympathize. I know how it feels. This is one of Mary's values. Sympathy, empathy. I know how it feels. To think of the right thing to say too late. Now, this is exactly what she doesn't want won't happen to Warren, right? She doesn't want Warren to say the wrong thing to this dying man. To think of the right thing to say too late. Harold's associated in his mind, Silas's, with Latin. Latin, of course, is a dead language. Maybe there are good reasons to study Latin, but yeah, a little different than learning how to build a load of hay. He asked me what I thought of Harold saying he studied Latin, like the violin, because he liked it. That, an argument. He said he couldn't make the boy believe he could find water with a hazel prong, which showed how much good a school had ever done him. He wanted to go over that, but most of all, he thinks he thinks if he could have another chance to teach him how to build a load of hay. All right, I love this. Love it. First off, just to cover this, there were people, and some people still do this and believe in this, that you could take a stick, a twig, maybe hazel wood, and you would hold the sticks. Sometimes it was a stick that came to a Y, sometimes it was two sticks. And a man, usually a man, could walk around outside, and with that wood, the wood would point to where there was water. And then you would get the shovel, dig, and have a well. Okay, so, you know, is there science behind this? Well, probably not, but some people think there is. It really doesn't matter. You have to dig your well somewhere, so you might as well walk around with sticks and see where it points. And of course, if you can convince yourself that, and other people, that you can do that, you're going to do quite well, because nobody wants to dig too deep for the well. I spoke to a man, he was probably about 90. I talked to him a couple years ago, and he used to dig wells. And I said, Frank, could you find water with the sticks? And he said, oh yeah, but though I don't believe in it. That was beautiful. All right, back to building the load of hay. Now, this is a very worthwhile, very practical skill on a farm from 120 years ago. There weren't balers or tractors. Hay was cut. It was then picked up with forks. Oh, conveniently, we're having our lesson today in front of the Berninger pitchfork collection, and happen to have this nice tall one here. This would have been a hay fork that you would, after the hay was cut and left to dry, and then probably raked into windrows, the farmer, or in this case the hired man, would scoop up the hay and put it on the wagon. And I'm actually going to drop a couple of pictures in here from a farm in Ghent from about this time period of the beautiful hay load that two men had built, and the team of men who were working the hay on that farm. So just enjoy these old photographs. Man, they're great, aren't they? Those are fabulous. So a long fork like this, scoop the hay when it's cut and stack it. And you saw by that picture of the big wagon load of hay that you needed a nice long fork like this. And you didn't just throw it up there like you're throwing dirt on a pile, okay? And, you know, Silas, before Silas dies, this is so sweet. Silas, before he dies, he wants to pass this knowledge on, right? He knows how to build a load of hay. And he wants to teach a young person who studied Latin and teaches at a college. Come on, what good is that? He wants to teach this young person the very practical skill of building a load of hay. It's very, very sweet. And Mary is no doubt using, you know, presenting this as evidence of a good person. So Mary values education, passing on knowledge. And notice, more importantly, she gets Warren to start saying good things about Silas. So at the beginning of this poem, Warren's position was, Silas is a bum, he's no good. And now suddenly, listen, Warren's starting to talk Silas up. I know that Silas is one accomplishment. He bundles every forkful in its place and tags and numbers it for future reference. That's not literal, people. You don't tag and number a piece of hay before you put it up. He's talking figuratively, but that's the care and understanding Silas has about hay. So he can find it and easily dislodge it. In the unloading, Silas does that well. He takes it out in bunches like big birds' nests. You never see him standing on the hay he's trying to lift, straining to lift himself. So you can imagine somebody who doesn't know what they're doing standing on hay while they're trying to scoop it. Well, that doesn't work very well. Silas, on the other hand, he knows where he's put a nice big clump of it, and he can pick up that clump. And you know, on a fork like this, you can, if you know what you're doing, you can pick up a huge hunk of hay, and then of course unload it into the barn or into the hay press. So yes, Warren is now highlighting one of Silas's skills. He thinks if he could teach him that, he'd be some good perhaps to someone in the world. He hates to see a boy the fool of books. Now I love books, right? I'm an English professor, but you do need practical skills. Each of you should know how to change a tire. Each of you should know how to use a chainsaw to cut up a tree if you need to. Each of you should know how to do basic home repairs, right? Anyway, he hates to see a boy the fool of books. So what does Mary value here? Again, concern for others. Silas has this concern for Harold. He doesn't want to see him the fool of books. Poor Silas, so concerned for other folk. Oh, good job. Remember, Mary's making a case here. She's working Silas over, working Warren over, softening him up. And nothing to look backward to with pride, and nothing to look forward to with hope. So now and never any different. So this is almost like her closing argument here that she is making. She's like an attorney making a case in a courtroom. Silas is concerned for others. She has Warren defending his skills. And then the two of them, this is so beautiful. The two of them sitting on the farmhouse porch together in the evening. And this description here is just beautiful. Part of a moon was falling down the west, dragging the whole sky with it to the hills. Its light poured softly in her lap. She saw and spread her apron to it. She put out her hand among the harp-like morning glory strings, taut with the dew from garden bed to eaves, as if she played unheard some tenderness that wrought on him beside her in the night. Warren, she said, he's come home to die. You needn't be afraid he'll leave you this time. So morning glories, you know what those are. And on a porch or trellis, They come up once you get the seeds going nicely. Vines that come up, and then in the morning the blossoms open up. So, and if you put strings out there for the morning glories to grow up, and she plucks them, right? Like she's angelic, an angel playing the harp. She just kind of touches them with her hand. You can't really hear them. She touches them. And she's playing an unheard tune on his heart. She's softening Warren's heart. Home, he mocked Warren. Mary now is going to use reverse psychology, playing devil's advocate. Yes, what else but home? It all depends on what you mean by home. Of course, he's nothing to us anymore. Then was the hound that came a stranger to us out of the woods, worn out upon the trail. Now, Mary doesn't mean that at all. Silas means a lot to her, but she's using reverse psychology at this point, right? She's made her case. Now she's making a little bit of the opposite position, the opposite case, to get Warren to shift Warren's feelings. Home is the place where, when you have to go there, they have to take you in. I should have called it something you somewhere haven't to deserve. Now that's a great name, right? A great way to talk about home. It's where when you go there, they have to take you in. You should have called something you shouldn't have to deserve, right? Warren leaned out and took a step or two, picked up a little stick and brought it back, and broke it in his hand and tossed it by. He's regrouping, okay? So at least she's got him off his rant, his anger. He's walking around and breaks his stick. And we'll talk about in our next little part, our next part of our discussion here, where Warren goes with this and how Mary softens him, and then we'll finish up the poem. So we'll see you in a moment.